Focused on leadership and communication to build your knowledge, authority, visibility, and influence as a leader. 6 dimensions. Intelligence, the regulating and recalibrating. Integrity, intelligence, trust, unification, intelligence, strategic leverage and results. Intelligence.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. It depends on where you are in the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Leadershipization, all things leadership. Now, today I'm going to be asking you, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, to grab a pen and paper, because of what we're looking at today. The conversation that we're going to have is all about absolute gold dropped around your career insight. So it's important, just take time now to grab a pen and paper. Now, if performance in the workplace was enough, more capable people would be further ahead in their careers than they are. Now, that may well sound quite uncomfortable to you. And that's understandable, because many of us have been taught that if we work hard, if we do the right thing, if we get results, if we prove ourselves, then the opportunities will automatically follow. Sometimes they do, but the reality is that sometimes they don't. And this is where pie theory, which was developed by Harvey Coleman, this is where the pie theory is useful. Now, pie stands for performance, image, and exposure. And what will happen as a result of our conversation, or what I'm hoping will happen, is that this will make sense of something that potentially you're experiencing, but maybe you don't fully understand. You see, if you're performing, but your reputation is not strong enough and your exposure is limited, that means that the work is happening. Yep, you're doing the things that you should be doing, but the right people may not yet fully know about you. They may not understand about your leadership. They may not remember the value that you bring to the role. That's what our conversation is about today. My name is Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach. Join me today as we unpack what the pie theory is, why it matters, and how you can use it in a way that feels strategic, ethical, and authentic. Yeah? Performance. Performance may earn you trust in your current role. Image and exposure will help to create confidence in others in the next opportunity. And as I said before, the pie theory was developed by Harvey Coleman. So let's start with the part that most capable leaders already understand really well, and that's performance. So our first point is this: performance is like the entry ticket when it comes to your career, but it is not the winning ticket. In Coleman's model, performance is the smallest part. It contributes 10% to the way that you are viewed by others. Now, I want you to understand that you mustn't fall into the position of thinking that performance doesn't matter because it's only 10%. Oh, well, I'll worry about the other things then. Don't think that it doesn't matter, because this is actually the foundation of everything else. This is how you deliver. This is about your competence. This is about your follow through. This is about how well you work. It's about the results that you create, etc., etc. Now, it's often misunderstood by people. We misunderstand it because we think we're working, we're doing all the things. We fall into a trap of thinking, if I keep doing good work, the right people will notice. Unfortunately, performance alone will not carry the whole career conversation for you. It just doesn't. Sometimes the right people do notice. However, the things they notice are things like, oh, really reliable, they're very hardworking, they're useful, they put their hand up to do all sorts of little things, they're very easy to deal with, they're a good communicator, they get along with everyone, we trust them with the delivery, they get things done. And that's all valuable. But, and it's a very big but, the fact that that's what they're noticing can be exactly what keeps you stuck in your current role or at your current level. It proves that you can do the job you have. I'll say that again. It proves that you can do the job you have, but it doesn't always prove that you are ready for the opportunity that you might want next. And that's the danger. The danger is that if what you're focused on is proving your performance, it's very easy to forget that reputation and visibility are required so that others can see your potential. Because the performance gets you credibility, but it doesn't automatically get you the next opportunity. And that's what the pie theory is all about. It's 10%. It's foundational. It's really important. You mustn't forget it, but it is not the only thing. The second aspect of the pie theory is image. And this is the reputation that people build from their experience with you. So it's not about vanity. It's much more than what you wear, how polished you look, whether you're talking the talk. It's 30%. 30% of the pie theory. And it's all about reputation. It's or what do we mean by reputation? It's the impression people form. It's their conclusions about your leadership. It's about how you communicate, how you contribute at meetings, how you respond, how you decide on things and the things that you decide on. It's about how well you collaborate. It's about how you carry yourself. And these are things like, and these are questions that you can ask yourself. Are you seen as credible? Are you seen as calm under pressure? Are you seen as someone who thinks beyond the task? Are you seen as someone who's able to comment constructively at large meetings? Are you seen as a strategic thinker, or are you stuck in the operational? Are you seen as someone who can handle complexity? Are you seen, I love this one, are you seen as someone who lifts the quality of the conversation? Are you seen as someone who is ready for more? These are the kinds of things that people develop into your reputation from their experiences of you. Now, you might say, well, why does image matter so much? It's important because the decisions that you make are based the decisions that others make about your potential and about your reputation are not just based on what you've done. They're not just based on your performance. It's also on what the behavior that you exhibit says about your potential. Now, lots of people kind of go, well, can't they get that out of what I'm doing? There's a real point of frustration about that. And I often see that in some of my clients. They think it means if I've got to be out there, like I'm out there pretending, I'm out there performing, I'm out there being really fake, and that doesn't feel real to me. So there's a lot of frustration around that. Your image is important, but it's not about pretending to be someone that you're not. It's about making sure that the impression that you create matches the leader you are capable of being. I'll say that again. It's not about pretending to be someone you are not. It's about making sure the impression you create matches the leader you are capable of being. Now, I think image is really, really important because for a lot of us, we think, or we fall into the trap of thinking, oh, there won't be too many problems. There won't be these kinds of problems when I get to a higher level. There's not going to be no problems when you get to a higher level. They're just different kinds of problems that are still going to need to be solved. Now, your image, 30% of how people are viewing you, is not what you say about yourself. It's the leadership impression that others carry after experiencing you, after interacting with you on an ongoing basis. It's important. Point 3, or part 3 of the pie theory, is exposure. This is all about who knows enough about you to back you. Who knows enough about you to back you? And this is the largest part of the pie theory, 60%. And often this is written up as the part that is most ignored. And I find with clients and leaders that I talk to, it's often the most ignored because they resist it. It feels like it can be a little bit confronting because you want to believe that the work that you do should be enough. Well, I'm performing. That should be enough. It's your job to notice. It's not my job to be telling you. So exposure really asks a couple of key questions. It asks things like, who knows your value? Who knows your value? Who has seen your leadership? Who understands how you think? You know, in the conversation that we had last week, we talked about sharing your leadership decisions so that people would understand this is what's gone into my decision. Think about also who has experienced your contribution. Like who out there can confidently mention your name in a conversation about a promotion or a new opportunity that's coming up? I'll sit with that for a second because often it can be not very many people. Now, I just want to clear the air about something first. This doesn't mean that you've got to be everywhere. You still got to be performing. It doesn't mean that you've got to be everywhere. It doesn't mean that you have to be loud. It doesn't mean that you have to be constantly self-promoting, because that's the very thing that puts lots of people off. But what it does mean is that the right people have to have enough experience of your leadership to trust, to remember, and to back you. Who does this include? Who are the right people? It depends on the circumstance, but it's people like your peers, senior leaders, stakeholders, project sponsors, decision makers, people who influence your informal reputation. anyone who's connected to future opportunities that you might see exist for you. Yeah? And the key is this. You can have a really strong reputation with your team and a small circle of people. And that isn't going to be enough because the opportunities would be too narrow, and it becomes a visibility issue for you. Now, I'm often working with clients who want visibility in their industry, not just in their organization, because visibility in their industry opens them up to all sorts of other opportunities. So, yeah, that strong reputation, but your circle is too small, may not be enough because those opportunities are too narrow. So exposure is not about being known by everyone. It's about being known by the right people for the right reasons. Our fourth point today is this. Look, I know I've worked with a lot of high performers, and for some high performers, pie feels really uncomfortable because it challenges that belief that the performance is enough. The awesome thing about performance is that you can control it, you can measure it, you can prove it. It's nice and clean. Whereas image and exposure feels so much messier. It's kind of, I've got to think about the politics here. Maybe I have to do some self-promotion and I don't like that. It's something that other people do. And what happens is that if you ignore it, the issue is that they are still relevant, even when you're not intentionally shaping them. And sometimes these things can be more damage to you because you're not intentionally shaping them, because in the background, they're still being formed. Your image is still being formed. The exposure is happening whether you're planning it or not. People are forming opinions. People are drawing conclusions about you and your leadership. Opportunities are still being discussed. Names are getting mentioned. If you're intentional, then you're able to shape that narrative rather than having it just running out there without you being aware of it. So, a question for you to ask yourself here, and this is, I'm sure you've written lots down already, but this is something else you might want to write down. Are your performance, image, and exposure working together, or is one of them holding you back? It's a lot to think about, because if you don't shape your image and exposure intentionally, people will form an impression anyway without your leadership necessarily being in the frame. Yeah? Point 5 for us to look at today is this one. Look, if you're serious about building your career, then it's time for you to shift from proving to positioning. And the pie theory is one way of looking at this positioning. It's about leadership maturity. It's not about being fake. It's not about being loud. It's not about being political. It's about, we want to open the door to new opportunities. And to do that, you've got to move from proving to positioning yourself. So what this means is that you've got to continue to perform. Excuse me. You've got to understand the reputation that you have and how to manage it moving forward. You've got to be communicating your impact more clearly. You've got to be visible to the right people, internally and externally to your organization, depending on what your career aspirations are. You need to be looking to build relationships before opportunities appear. Not leaving it till the last minute when it feels rushed and when it can feel fake. You want to be able to help others understand the value that you bring, not just in performance, but in your leadership and the way you do things. You want to make your leadership easier to trust, to remember, and for someone to advocate for. Because, under performance, building those relationships, doing that networking, helping people understand who you are and what you stand for, all of that is building advocates, people who are going to talk about you when an opportunity comes up. Now, for many, this is exactly where coaching is incredibly useful, because often you're way too close to your own work. And so what you do is you underplay your contribution, or you assume that your value is obvious. Maybe you don't know how to talk about the impact that you're making without feeling uncomfortable about it. Maybe you've got no idea whose radar you need to be on. Maybe you're not sure how to build authentic relationships. And coaching turns all of that into a deliberate, values-aligned strategy. It's not about performance only. It's not about ego. It's not about pretending. It's not about, and we all hate this, it's not about that sucking up that we see people doing. It's a clear way to help others see the leader that you're becoming. I work with a lot of people to build that deliberate, values-aligned strategy. And it makes a huge difference, because that positioning, it's not about pretending. It's about helping others to see the leadership value that your performance alone may not reveal to them. Lots of people can achieve the performance. It's the thinking behind it that makes the difference, yeah? So, sixth thing I want to share with you today is the leadership intelligence tool. And this is really, I've just called it the pie check. And this is where what you're doing is looking at where your career strategy might be a little bit thin. And so into each of the aspects of the pie, there are 2 questions that I want you to look to ask, using pie as the lens. And one of these questions is more internally focused, and the other one is more externally focused. So in relation to performance, internally, am I delivering the results and behaviors that are needed for me to be credible? So that's you asking yourself, am I delivering those? And you will have some measures, some KPIs that you can look at that against. A more external question, putting yourself in the shoes of others who experience your leadership, might be, what am I currently known for delivering? So this is, and what's the quality? What's the consistency? What are the outcomes? What am I currently known for delivering? The second part of the pie check is image. The internal question is, what reputation is forming from how people experience me? What's your communication like? How do you deal under pressure? Collaborate? Are you clear in what you're asking? Do you follow up or follow through? Those kinds of things. The external question, thinking now from the perspective of those who experience you, what leadership impression am I leaving behind? Maybe they think you're too operational and not strategic enough. Maybe they think you're a bit emotional. Maybe they think you're dramatic. Maybe they think you talk a lot and don't follow up with anything. What leadership impression am I leaving behind? And the third part, exposure, the internal question, who knows enough about my leadership to trust, remember, or back me? So you're sitting here asking yourself, I'm looking out, who knows enough? Maybe there are a lot of people, maybe there aren't very many. Maybe you've got some and you need some more. Maybe you've got lots of people, but you need people in stronger positions. So that leads us to the second question, which is, who needs better understanding of the value that I bring? It might be someone external to the organisation you're currently working in, because opportunities aren't always in that one organisation. They're in the industry. So once you've asked yourself those questions, identify the area where pie is thin for you. I mean, it might be that you have a really strong image with your direct team, but your exposure is narrow. And so what I want you to do is, once you've identified that weakness, make a deliberate move to strengthen it. And one small move, for the example I've just given you, might be, well, I need to reconnect with a stakeholder. I need to ask a senior leader a thoughtful question so that they understand that I do think about these things at a higher level. And I'd also like to refer you to last week's Leadershipisation, All Things Leadership, where the tool I gave you was a leadership signal sentence. And what that was about was, as often as you could, explaining this is what we're doing and the leadership decision here was. So that was the magic phrase. The leadership decision here was, so that you could demonstrate the thinking that had gone into it. As I said, identify the weakness and make a deliberate move to strengthen it. It's important that you take charge of your own career, because no one is coming to save you. You've got to take charge of it. Okay, deep reflection question. Again, I ask you these so that you can write them down, look at them, make some notes, go away, come back a couple of hours later, a couple of days later, and ask the question again. That way, what you're doing is unpeeling the layers and getting closer to what the real issue might be. So the deep reflection question is this: where am I relying on performance to do work that image and exposure also need to carry? So that's a cute way of asking, where am I ignoring image and exposure? Where do I need to do more of that? Where do I need to focus more on that to support the high quality performance work that I'm doing? Yeah. So our key takeaways from today: performance matters. It's really important, but it's not everything. Image is the leadership reputation from when others experience you. And exposure is about right people knowing enough to trust you, to remember you, and to back you. Because if you're performing well, but you're still not seen for the opportunities that might come up, the pie theory gives you a really useful framework and questions to ask, particularly which part of this is too thin. Is it performance? Is it image? Is it exposure? Now, if this conversation made you realize that you need a much more deliberate strategy for how you're known, how you're understood, and how you're backed, use the QR code or the link that will be in the platform that you're watching this on, and book a conversation with me. because performance matters, but your image and your exposure help people who are in a position to make decisions about your career see you. It puts you in the picture for opportunities and potential promotion and career moves forward. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I know we took a little longer than usual, but I also know that this is a vitally important aspect of you starting to take responsibility, that self-leadership that's required for you to lead and manage and be deliberate about going after the career that you want. Thank you. If you've got questions and comments, pop them in the platform that you're watching this on. Also, please like, please comment, please share with friends and family and others, work colleagues, and also please subscribe. See you next week. Bye now.